The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
So hello and welcome to another episode of the Star Sport podcast. I'm your host Matthew Hurley and I'm joined today, as always, by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose credit union, choose local, choose community. Now later on the show, we'll be joined by Cork hurler Shane Kingston as the Rebel hype train is at full speed. But first, we'll look at some main stories that happened in West Cork sport last weekend. And of course, the Cork footballers were in action as well as the hurlers last week. We'll get on to hurlers in just a bit before the chat with Shane. But the footballers won as well last weekend. They beat Limerick on a scoreline of 24 points to 13 in the TUS Gaelic grounds. A game, Kieran, where it was just a sense of maybe job done. Limerick went down to 14 men, 24 minutes into the game. Sean Clancy got a second yellow card. Two of his yellows coincidentally came within 3 or 4 minutes, which was very, very quick. But Cork played with an extra man for over half the game. They won the game in the end. So on to Kerry in the semi-final now in the Munster Senior Football Championship.
Yeah, this game was all about, I think, just getting over this potential hurdle. Like we said, Cork were in a kind of a no-win situation here. If the result went the wrong way for Cork, obviously the guns would be out. But it's just even when Cork do beat Limerick, it's like it was a kind of result that people would have expected too, because Cork are Division 2. Okay, Limerick were after winning the Division 4 final, but there's a gulf there between the teams. So it kind of panned out as we thought it would. I think Cork obviously started off stronger. Then that sending off kind of changed the context of the game, and you would have preferred probably a bit of a tougher test going into Kerry on Saturday week, but it just is what it is. I think the main thing is that Cork got the result. There was very little drama, very little fuss, kind of no scare there as such. So it's kind of job done, box ticked. But you're going from a team that played in Division 4 this season to take it on the team that just won Division 1. So there's a huge gulf there. So where does that Cork team stand? We'll find out a lot more Saturday week.
Exactly so. And I suppose leading into the Kerry game, like an interesting stat actually, in the last 3 games, Cork have actually had 11 two-pointers, including a load from Brian O'Driscoll. He got 2 in the last game against Limerick. Mark Cronin is chipping in well as well with 2 in the last game against Limerick. Brian Hurley got 1 as well. Whereas Kerry in the last 3 games, interestingly enough, I might be clutching at straws here, Kieran, but Kerry have had no two-pointer in the last 3 games. And we kind of seen over the last weekend how important, across the whole football championship, the opening week of it, how important two-pointers can be. Sligo got 2 against Mayo, ran them very close in Connacht. Donegal got 2 in one half by one player, Darrow Boyle, against Derry, and built up a very good lead at halftime, which ended up as a Donegal win by 10 points. Could that be a potential avenue where Cork beat Kerry? I know we'll preview it in depth in next week's podcast, but could that be an avenue where Cork trouble the kingdom?
I think, yeah, it's definitely an area that Cork are looking to exploit. Like you said there, that Cork have been very, in the last 11 pointers in how many games, so it's obviously something that Cork are working on. Brian O'Driscoll with 2 again the last days, and he's shown he's a good exponent of this new art. There's enough Cork players there who can pick off 2-pointers, and it's kind of interesting to find the balance of scoring a 2-pointer against the value of getting a goal now. Because obviously the goal is only worth 3 points, where this 2-pointer's worth 2 points. And if Cork can keep the scoreboard ticking over 2 points, it either keeps them in the game or builds a lead, or depends on how the game pans out. But it's a definite armory to have, that you're able to kick those 2-pointers, and Cork have shown it this year. So I suppose it gives some hope going into this game. But I think it's just important to be very realistic too of where these two teams stand at this moment in time. Kerry will rightly go in as favourites. Cork are waiting since 2012 when Cork beat Kerry in the Munster semi-final and Cork went on to win Munster. Cork have only beaten Kerry once in the Munster Championship since then, and there was no fans in that game. That was the COVID semi-final back in 2020. So, like, I suppose to be realistic too of Cork's expectations going into this game, like Kerry will be rightful favourites. It's all on Cork to produce the surprise, but having elements like that in Cork's game is that ability to kick 2-pointers. It could put a question mark in kind of Kerry's head at certain points. So you have to kind of find chinks in the Kerry armour, and having footballers and having players who are quite comfortable at kicking 2-pointers. I think that's definitely a plus. Like, and you were there too, Matthew, on obviously up the Gaelic grounds on Saturday evening. What did you see from that Cork performance, or what didn't you see that might or might not give you hope for this game against Kerry?
The only hope that I could see on a positive light was probably, and I would take into account not just the performance on the pitch, just the opposition as well, and the fact they were down to 14 men for most of the game as well. The way Cork managed the game, I thought was very, very good. In fairness, there were periods of the game where we've probably complained about it on this podcast and the previous podcast as well, that Cork have hung on to the ball too long, especially against opposition like Louth and Kerry, for example, as well, where you have to attack the opposition there. But in this particular game against Limerick, they held the ball for there was a period of the game they held the ball for about 2 or 3 minutes, which kind of took the sting out of it. Limerick got a couple of 2-pointers themselves through Emmett Richter and James Naughton. Cork held the ball for that period of time. Then at the end of it, Matty Taylor gets a point, and that kind of sucked the life out of the game. And I think that was one positive for Cork. They closed out the game very, very well when they were in a very good winning position. But then again, you kind of have to attack at pace against a team like Kerry, like especially with their defence. That's probably a chink in Kerry's armour a small bit as well. Their full back line is a bit vulnerable when you run at them. Like Mayo did once, I think, in the league final, they got a goal off it. You see in other parts of the league as well, Dublin really ran at them in Osselstack Park, got a bit of joy out of it as well. So there are avenues where Cork could really, really trouble them. And I think a big fan base would be crucial in Páirc Uí Chaoimh next week. I know we'll get onto the hurlers in a bit, and they're riding on a crest of a wave, but it'd be very, very interesting to see the amount of support that will come out for the Cork footballers. This game is on in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. It's almost in their own backyard here, so I don't think there's much excuse for the Cork support to come out and support the team here, but it's kind of hard to pick real positives from this Limerick game. I think the only real one, Kieran, in all honesty, is they closed the game out very, very well, which is probably the least you expect out of Cork. But then again, they didn't close the game out, as John Cleary mentioned post-match as well. They didn't close the game out against Down, frustratingly so for John and the management team, I'd imagine. And they lost that game, and ultimately that cost them promotion. So maybe they are improving as the year has gone on, and the younger players like the likes of Neil Lord, Sean McDonald, Sean Brady all got championship debuts. That's maybe another positive as well. But then again, it's the opposition, Limerick, down to 14 men. Who's to know? If they had 15 men on the pitch, maybe we could have learned a bit more. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I think so. I'm here looking at the Kerry team that started against Mayo in the league final, and you're looking at that full forward line, Matthew, like it's David Clifford, Paul Ganey, Dylan Ganey. And okay, it's not going to be like for like, but look at the Cork full back line against Limerick on Saturday night. It was Sean Brady and Neil Lord, and like you were saying, kind of two relative newcomers, and you've Daniel O'Mahony. So that shows the size of the task that Cork are going to have on their hands. You know, you're up against a genuine All-Ireland kind of contender in this Kerry team that have kind of moved through the gears, but haven't really. It's almost a surprise league title by Kerry, because they weren't overly impressive in the early stages of the league, but they're starting to get the players back, and they're starting to kind of, I suppose, solve that midfield conundrum at the moment and stuff. So it's just going to be, this is going to be quite an interesting game. It really will be, because Kerry are not the finished article by any stretch right now. You know, they're still trying to work out who to put where and what their best team looks like. Cork are kind of obviously a team in transition as well. A lot of young fellas coming through, and there's been a good few injuries there that have, I suppose, robbed Cork, the likes of the Sean Meehans, you know, who had a huge game on Clifford. That was only a couple of years ago, you know. So there's so it's going to be quite interesting to see how this game pans out. But you made a great point, Matthew, in terms of that Cork support. Around 2,000 people at the Gaelic grounds on Saturday evening for the Cork footballers. Look at Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Sunday for the Cork hurlers. Like it was a sellout. Like, couldn't get your hand in a ticket. It just shows We've spoken about it before. It's like it's like morning and night, the hurlers and the footballers in Cork at the moment. And when the hurlers start to move, you can see that they kind of see a red behind them. And it would be great to see a bigger than normal support come out for the Cork footballers. I can't put a number on what that'll be, because we've seen over the last decade or so, kind of even attendances for Cork Kerry games have just dwindled from what they were going back 15 years or so. I suppose that's when it was knockout too. So it's going to be interesting to see what the crowd will be like in Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Saturday week. But we would hope that there will be just a good size attendance there, because that's what this Cork team needs. They really need to kind of feel just that support from the Cork crowd as well. And you never know. We've seen in the last couple of years that there hasn't been too much between the teams for certain points of games, So I think Cork will be, as always, they'll be confident going into a game like this that they can cause a shock. But it's, like you said, Matthew, it's something that we look at in more in depth in next week's podcast.
Exactly. So we'll be definitely looking forward to the meeting of Cork and Kerry. And as Kieran said there, we'll discuss it in next week's podcast. There are other league finals to take care of this weekend. The Cork are in both the LGFA and Camogie League finals this weekend. Folks, have the LGFA first. They're the Division 2 final against Galway in Croke Park on Saturday at 3 p.m. This game is live at TG Carr. These two sides, Kieran, have been the standard bearers of Division 2. They've gone up without much fuss. Like, for example, Cork finished second on 18 points. The third place team, which I think was Tipperary, ended up on 9. That probably just epitomised the gulf in class between Galway and Cork and the rest. So these are the two deserving finalists, obviously. But do you think Cork would benefit in winning this final? Obviously, it's in Croke Park. That'll be a great experience for this kind of young team under Joe Carroll. But would they benefit from getting this league title over a good Galway team too?
Yeah, that's almost the context, the backdrop to this game, that this is a very good Galway team, and it's a Galway team that won all 7 Division 2 games, including a narrow win over Cork. That was in the second round of the league. That was an away game for Cork. And I think there's only a couple of points in it that day. Galway have been in ominous form in the last couple of weeks in terms of the league. They hammered Clare, trounced Monaghan. They put up huge scores there. So I would presume that Galway will be favourites in Saturday's final. But for Cork and where this team is, and that's almost that's the context where this is a young Cork team that's going through its transition, that has a new manager there and so on. So for their growth and development, Division 2, I think, has been really good in terms of they've won 6 out of their 7 games, excuse me, and including the last 5 wins in a row. This Cork team wouldn't have won that up in Division 1. And it's what we saw last year when Cork were relegated in the last 6 of their 7 games. So being in Division 2 has allowed these young players to kind of find their feet, win a couple of games, and then that just breeds kind of momentum and self-belief and confidence. And we'll hopefully see that on Saturday. Of course, it'll be super to win the game before going to the Munster Championship, because that Munster Championship contains the All-Ireland champions Kerry, which will... So when you're looking at the outset, there's only a couple of trophies that this Cork team can win. It's the league, the Munster and the All-Ireland. And this is a realistic chance of winning some silverware. Again, it would be important for the development of this team. But it's almost standing back from this game for a second, the bigger picture, that a lot of these young players and even some of the more experienced Cork players are getting the chance to play in Croke Park again. And that's just for their development, I think, is quite important, because you want to normalise playing in a stadium like this, because the hope is that Cork will get back here hopefully later this summer, and if not, it'll be next year or the year after. So you want to take, I suppose, the fear element out of, or the novelty element even out of playing in Croke Park, where it just doesn't hold any fear for these Cork players. So I think that's going to be important on Saturday, just the whole build up to the game, arriving to Croke Park, going under the tunnel in the bus, going into the dressing rooms, the warm up, everything, all those trappings, that they get used to something like that, because I think that'll help Cork in the long run, as would a win, obviously.
Definitely so, and hopefully the Cork LGFA team do get the win over Galway this weekend. And we talked about the team, Cork LGFA, that want the trophy on the board and want a bit of confidence booster and getting a trophy. The next team is obviously the Cork camogie team, and they have every trophy under the sun, obviously, other than the league. They haven't won the league since 2013. They faced Galway in Semple Stadium in Thurles at 2:15 p.m. on Sunday. It's live on RT2 as well. Look, you've seen the interview that you did with Maeve Callan on this week's Southern Star as well, and she mentioned a very interesting point. I think it was only two Cork players, the two Mackies, have won a league title, which is kind of shocking in its own right that not enough of these Cork players have won a league title. Obviously, they've won All Irelands, they've won Munster Championships, so I don't think they'd care too much. But then again, if you have the opportunity in front of you, you may as well go ahead and win it. And Cork haven't conceded a goal in this league campaign either, so it's all set up for them to win their first league title in 12 years.
Yeah, that's the point that Maeve was making, is that you look around the Cork dressing room at the moment, and it is just the two Mackies that she thinks that have won league medals. And then she goes, you look and you see all the other medals and the accolades and the awards kind of for different players, kind of player of the year, All Ireland winners, kind of you name it. This incredible Cork camogie group has won it, but most of them have not won a Division 1 league medal. So it's a chance to get their hands on that on Sunday, and almost kind of complete their collection in one sense. They'll have won every medal then. So you wouldn't put it past this Cork team. Obviously, they're going to win as favourites because they are the best team in the country right now. They're back-to-back All-Ireland champions. They've proved in the league so far this year by topping the kind of group stage that they're still number one, and it's kind of, I think it's ominous for the rest of the teams that Cork are just kind of, they've been so impressive in the league, without ever kind of hitting top gear. They won their first 4 games to qualify for the league final with a game to spare. Then they lost to Galway by 19 points to 13 at home in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, the same Galway who Cork will face this Sunday. But the big context there, Matthew, is that Cork are already qualified for the final. So that game was a dead rubber in one instance for Germany's side. It didn't really matter what happened, but definitely result-wise, Maeve makes the point they were disappointed to lose that game and with the performance. So that might give them that bit of motivation too, going into a game against a Galway team that over the last couple of years, we've said it before, it's been Cork, Galway and Kilkenny. They've been the top teams in the last 6, 7, 8 years when it comes to camogie, and Galway did have they had it over Cork there for a good number of years until you go back to the semi-final. I think it was the year before last. So I think this is a good opportunity for Cork to beat one of their main All-Ireland contenders in a league final, set them up for the Munster Championship, set them up for the All-Ireland Championship, but also get a league medal. So it's pointing towards a Cork win, but they still have to go out and do it.
Exactly. So hopefully they go ahead and do it this weekend against Galway. Looking at rugby for a bit as well, Jack Crowley obviously was the hero over the weekend for Munster against La Rochelle with a match-winning drop goal to send the province to the Champions Cup quarterfinals. I mentioned too to Gavin Coombs from Tipperary, who got a crucial try for Munster in the second half as well. West Cork has paid its dues for the Munster team here in last weekend, and they face Bordeaux this weekend in the quarterfinals. Jack Crowley and Gavin Coombs, brilliant players doing it at the big stage, and Jack, the clutch player of all time, really.
Oh yeah, it was super. Obviously, when you're looking back at the win in France last weekend, it's that drop goal by Jack is kind of the Kodak moment, that magic moment from the game, and even Ron O'Gara said it after, like it was a defining kick in the game because it pushed Munster from 5 points up to 8 points up, and they just gave them enough of a buffer to hold off La Rochelle in the end. And I suppose the big news coming out of Munster today, just before we started recording the podcast, is that Jack Crowley has signed a new contract with Munster, a two-year contract extension to keep at the province until 2027. So it's just good timing for Munster to announce this news in between beating La Rochelle, in between go back to France this weekend to play Bordeaux. But it's super performance by Jack. That's back-to-back man of the match performances. Like you said, Gavin Coombs scored his 50th try for Munster. He's now joint third in the all-time Munster try scoring list. And also Josh Wycherley came on very early in the game the last day and did really well. He was brought on in the 12th minute, and then we had Fineen Wycherley come on in the second half of Jean Klein as well. So you very much had West Cork fingerprints all over that, which was a famous Munster win. And now the hope is that Munster can go back over to France this weekend and do it all over again.
Hopefully so. We'll hope that Munster do it all over again this weekend in a tough game against Bordeaux. We'll take a quick break now, and after the break we'll be talking to Cork hurler Shane Kingston.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
So welcome back to the podcast, and in a while we'll be talking to Shane Kingston, who was speaking at the launch of the Air for All Poc Tapa Challenge. Air, Ireland's leading telecommunications provider, is calling on GA clubs across the country to take part in the Air for All Poc Tapa Challenge to be in with a chance of winning €5,000 for their club to play on the hallowed turf of Croke Park on All-Ireland semi-final day. For more information on how to enter, follow air.ireland on social media or visit air.ie for more information. Now, Kieran Chain was off the back, obviously, with the rest of his Cork teammates in winning their first league title in 27 years. They beat Tipperary in Super Valley Park in Kiev 324 to 23 points. With the pitch flooded in red, the stadium obviously full, Cork getting 3 goals in the first half and an almost perfect performance in the first half, maybe not so much the second half, but maybe they were easing up a small bit before the championship began. Is it their year, Kieran?
What a question, Matthew. What a question. I suppose the hype is real. Like I tweeted after the final the last day, saying good luck trying to kind of play down the hype, because you could see by the kind of front of a sellout crowd, the Cork fans on the pitch after celebrating. I know Pat Ryan and the players are trying to downplay it after, saying kind of, oh, that was a poor second half and we need to kind of up the ante for the league and up the ante for the Munster Championship and so on. But why not just embrace the fact that Cork have won the league for the first time in 27 years? Like, it was a super first half performance. Cork are league champions. That's a success that should be celebrated. Okay, like, looking at the bigger picture, the All-Ireland is the big one. That's the one that all Cork fans want. But to win the league for the first time in over a quarter of a century, like, that can't be sniffed at, you know. It really can't. I think it's an important moment for this Cork team, and the fact that they've now won silverware. You know, kind of, we saw what Clare last year, what winning the league did for Clare. They helped them kind of helped them, or could have played a role in what they achieved in the championship but look at before last Sunday, Cork were without an All-Ireland title. This is the Liam McCarthy in 20 years. They were without a league title in 27 years. And I think it's the 7th season without a Munster senior hurling title. So for a county the size of Cork, and given the support that's there and the noise and the hype around them, it's still been a very long time to go without winning silverware. So that's why just embrace a success like this. It's brilliant for Cork hurling. It's another sign that they're moving in the right direction, but in a sense that the real, or the kind of the one that everyone wants starts now. You know, it's the Munster Championship on Sunday week, a kind of a trip up to Clare, but there'll be definitely a pep in the step of the hurlers, and definitely the fans. You know, like, this is just like you have a piece this week, Matthew, about, is it all the Munster Championship games involving Cork hurlers? They're all sold out. That's incredible, like.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was looking at Ticketmaster now the other day, and I think I was looking, there was actually a link to say buy tickets for Waterford Cork. I think that's the last round 5 of the Munster Championship, and it said no information available. Then I click on to the Limerick and Tipperary one. This game is on the 20th of April. That's just over a week's time. There's still terrace tickets available for that game. Like, all the Cork games look to be sold out. There's still tickets available for other games as well, which probably just emphasises the hype around this Cork team at this present moment in time. A lot of people are putting them top of the charts, obviously above Limerick, above Clare. A lot of people think they'll win the All-Ireland. Even Paddy Power, as we mentioned last week on last week's podcast, they've put Cork at the top as well. Pundits are putting us at the top. Anthony Daly has now written us as favourites for the All-Ireland. Like, could this be, just before we get on to Shane, could this be a bad thing for Cork in many ways, that the hype is so high? Because all of a sudden, just play devil's advocate for a bit, if they lose to Clare and Ennis on Sunday week, maybe the hype will start to go down a small bit then, and the question would be, can Cork recover from a rocky start? So is the hype a bit dangerous too?
Like, I see some people saying our Cork being set up for a fall, but if you look at it in one sense, Cork are unlucky to lose last year's All-Ireland final. They've now gone out and won the league. You know, they proved to be one of the top teams in the country over the last 12 months. So they are genuine All-Ireland contenders. So you almost just have to just kind of just ride the crest of this wave, you know, and just see I know Cork are, and we'll hear from Shane quite soon now about trying to block out that outside noise and focus on themselves. Like, the Cork hurling team cannot control the narrative that's going to kind of, it's in the public domain now, is like that that the rebels are on the move, like the juggernaut is picking up speed. Like the hurlers can't control that, so kind of all they can control is what they do on the pitch on Sunday week against Clare and then against Tipperary after that and so on. So I just think it's always just let's see where this goes. But like even looking at the Munster Championship, if Cork lost to Clare, like it really isn't the end of the world. We know that the top three teams will kind of advance to the All Ireland series, and if you're looking at it now, you would be looking at Cork, Limerick, and Clare. You know, kind of I know Clare with Shane O'Donnell, we have to see what the story is there, but like Cork ideally get to Munster final, ideally win Munster, go into the All Ireland series, but you would think with the two home games against Waterford and Tipperary, win those two games, that Cork will be guaranteed progression to the All Ireland series regardless of what happens, because the two toughest games are the away ones, away to Limerick, away to Clare, you know, but given what Cork have done over the last 12 months, I don't think those games hold any fear for them. So it's going to be a quite interesting Munster Championship, especially how the tables have turned. You know, Limerick have been used to being at the top dog over the last couple of years, and now it's like they're sailing under the radar a small bit. You know, kind of the expectation is on Cork. So how will Cork handle that? We'll see in the next couple of weeks.
Definitely so. And we'll hear from Shane Kingston, who chatted to us on the podcast this week right now. So delighted to be joined on the Star Sport podcast this week by Cork hurler Shane Kingston as the Munster Championship comes swiftly around, and obviously Cork are league champions as well, which is obviously great to see. I suppose first of all, Shane, I have to ask you about the league triumph of the last few days, the win over Tipperary last Sunday. The camp is in a good spot, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose it was nice to get a bit of silverware the other day. You know, it's been a while. But yeah, look, I suppose it's such a quick turnaround to championship. You're trying to embrace as much as you can at the time, and you know, forget about it then and move on.
And I suppose as well, like with all the hype kind of around the Cork team at the moment, some people are saying it's your All Ireland favourites. Do you feel pressure inside the camp at the moment?
Not really, to be honest. We know there's a lot of outside noise, but you know, like, we're staying focused internally, you know, keeping that circle tight, keeping the outside noise out. You know, there's a lot of people talking, a lot of people kind of jumping on the bandwagon, but you know, it's kind of irrelevant to us, and leave them at it. We'll stay focused on ourselves and train hard over the next couple of weeks, and you know, maximise the time we have together.
I suppose with the Munster Championship coming up as well, the first game off against Clare and Ennis, like the last game, obviously in Ennis, between two sides, he scored 6 goals. It went pretty well for you. But this Munster Championship game coming up, it's a whole different ball game. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I suppose there's a massive difference between league and championship. We don't have a good record going up to Ennis over the last number of years. You know, obviously there was the victory there a number of weeks ago, but it was a league game. So we haven't beaten Clare in championships 2021. So you know, it's a pretty bad record. So we know that there's a massive task ahead next week up in Ennis. So you know, we're just going to put ourselves in the best position over the next kind of 5 or 6 sessions going into that game.
Looking at the Munster Championship as a whole, would you describe it as one of the toughest championships in the GAA at the moment? You have 5 teams very, very competitive with each other, and it's very, very difficult to get out, even with a top 3.
Yeah, 100%. I suppose the competitiveness between the 5 teams is mad. I suppose a lot of times it's just a puck of a ball, as we saw over the last number of years, that you know, you nearly need that bit of luck to get out of Munster, and then I suppose things can kind of take off from there, really. But I suppose the biggest thing is getting out of Munster, really.
And you look at even your home games against Tipperary, Waterford. In your opinion, are they must wins in many ways, considering that the opponents that are coming up away from home in Limerick and Clare?
Hadn't really thought about it like that. I suppose the focus for us really this week and next week is just looking at the Clare game, and you know, play the Clare game and then focus on the Tip game. So I haven't really thought about the home or away games. I've just looked at it as, you know, the next game up, and kind of look at it from there, really.
Look at the last few games, like Cork have scored 6 goals against Clare, 4 goals against Galway, 3 goals against Tipperary. Like, the goal getting in this team over the last few games has been brilliant, to be fair. Like, what has Poc done to kind of change your mindset in going for goals more often?
I think we were always kind of creating goals, really. As I was saying earlier, the goal creation was always there over the last, even as long as I've been involved, kind of last 8 or 9, 10 years. It was always there when we analysed it, creating a lot of goals every game. was probably the efficiency of it was in question. Probably didn't convert them enough, which is something that I suppose fellas have probably worked on individually. I haven't really put too much emphasis on it in training, but I suppose the efficiency of it has gone up, and an extra 1 or 2 goals a game there, and things start kind of totting up.
And even when the first goal went in the last against Tipperary, you kind of had the feel that the crowd were getting behind Cork. Every 50-50 ball, you were going to win. And every time you went up the field, looked like you were going to score a goal as well. Do the fans from the stands kind of feed onto the pitch in a way that you feel more confident as players to deliver in a Cork jersey?
I'd say not more confident, but it's obviously great to have so many fans there. And, it's... I suppose the noise and everything is just brilliant. And even after the game, the way the fans kind of swarm the pitch, we've amazing support, which is brilliant. And I suppose when in the tight knit games, when you have that kind of 16th man, roaring you on, it is that extra element that can kind of drive you on a bit as well.
And even over the last few weeks, it's been revealed that nearly all Munster Championship games are going to be sold out as well, even with big stadiums like Poc Tapa holding over 40,000 as well as that as well. How pleasing is it from a player's point of view to have so much support behind you?
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's having that fan base is exceptional. Then it also brings about the people plaguing you for tickets then as well. So that's another issue, but. It's brilliant. As I said there, like having everyone being able to come onto the pitch after. To somebody say there was about 10,000 on the field after. I think we witnessed it last year as well against Limerick. In the Park Queeve game. So it's brilliant. And it's the players and everyone amongst the group appreciates it. So yeah, it's have to keep going now and doing it for them and doing it for the group and our families and stuff.
We talked about kind of the difference between league and championship earlier in the chat as well. Do you think the intensity goes up even in the first game against Clare, from 2 weeks previous to the game against Tip in the league final, then the game against Clare? In your opinion, does the intensity just up a certain amount?
Definitely, yeah. I suppose everyone uses the league as nearly a building block. Testing out new things, testing out new puck outs, testing out new players. So it's a completely different kettle of fish, really. You try maximize the league as much as you can, and take the learnings from it moving into championship. But as you said, everything ramps up 100% from league to championship, really.
And just one final thing as well, you're probably one of the most experienced players in the Cork panel at the moment. There's a young wave of brilliant talent coming through the Cork team at the moment as well. What's it like being one of the most experienced players of the panel compared to your earlier days, obviously being one of the brighter young players in the panel?
Yeah, I suppose I don't really think of it like that. There's still plenty of fellas with lots of experience, and I don't think the group looks at it like that, really. When you're in there and there's younger fellas there, there's older fellas there, everyone feels like they're the same age, really. But look, it's brilliant to have that, I suppose, blend of youth and the experience. Just even for a fella, if he's a bit nervous, that he can talk to an older fella, just let him know, or I suppose techniques that work for other fellas, and that level of experience then as well, to be able to talk to the younger fellas then as well is brilliant. But yeah, so that's kind of it.
Brilliant. And yeah, best of luck, Shane, in the championship overall. Probably the whole country being at the moment. And yeah, thanks for your time on the podcast this week.
Thanks, Matthew. Sound.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
So it is time to chat about what's in this Thursday's Southern Star, and obviously it is out today in all shops around West Cork, obviously. So what should we expect in the sports section this week, Kieran?
Yeah, again, this time of year, it's really cranking up, so absolutely packed again. I have an interesting interview with Laura Power. So she's a Castletown Bear woman who was actually on the Cork Ladies football team back in the mid-noughties, and she played in the Cork Ladies footballers' first ever Division 1 National Football League win, which was 20 years ago, 2005. So I caught up with Laura. She's living in Irvinstown now, up in Fermanagh. So it was a really interesting chat just about her own Cork career and how it started. Like she was 14 when she played for the Cork ladies football team first. That was back in 2002 in a relegation league game against Meath, and she was telling me that her mom, Mary Power, so well known out in Beara, pulled her out of bed to say that the Cork ladies were stuck for players, and Laura went on to play that game. And it just shows where Cork ladies football was and then what it became. You know, it's an incredible story, and Laura was a part of that story. Like, she was the Munster Ladies Young Footballer of the Year in 2004. She won the league in 2005, a league in 2006, and so on. So just it's a good local West Cork angle, another West Cork angle into the greatest ladies football team that we've all seen. As well as that, obviously, all the inter-county stuff is covered, from the Cork hurlers winning the league title to the Cork footballers beating Limerick, and John Hayes gives his verdict on that. On that game, we've interviewed Maeve Cahalane ahead of the league final, an interview with Cork ladies football captain Sarah Leahy ahead of their league final against Galway on Saturday. Looking at the county league for a second, Bandon hurlers are flying high, and they're our feature kind of county league game this week. They've made it 3 wins from 3 in the league, and we also have an interview with their manager James Knighton, and he tells us why he couldn't say no to Bandon when they came calling. As well as that, turning to the West Cork League for a second, Matthew, a couple of cup finals this weekend, and a very interesting one, the Parkway Hotel Maybury Coaches Cup final sees Drina Rangers A take on Drina Rangers B. It's the Drina Derby in the cup final, so that's going to be an interesting one. And you were talking to Shane Kingston there, so that's worth checking out. And even though people will expect Drina A to beat the B team, just go back to the Premier Division earlier this season when Drina B actually beat the A team in the league. So who knows, we could have another big upset on our hands on Sunday. Also switching to rugby for a second, just in keeping with the success that kind of the local schools and local rugby clubs have had in recent weeks, that the Clonakilty under-18 girls team won the Munster Clubs Cup final last weekend. I don't know, Matthew, you were talking to Neville Burton there for a really nice piece. And even looking at motorsport, Keith Cronin is out in the Carlisle Rally this weekend in his British Rally Championship title bid. So we've his thoughts on that. And then we also have news of the Skibbereen School League and Bantry Basketball Club, which is kind of doing great things at the moment. So there's absolutely packed again this Thursday, and there's something for everyone with such a variety of sports covered.
Absolutely so. And also in this week's Southern Star Sports section, there is a supplement on our home and garden supplement, your guide to the perfect West Cork home and garden. Check out any of our tips for weather-wise gardening, the supplement which covers all that free in this week's Southern Star. And as usual, if you are further afield or can't make it to the shops, you could subscribe to the Southern Star e-paper and get the Southern Star on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/subscribe, enter your details, and you get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back again next week. Until then, take care.